It's Ash from SuperVideos back for another video for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon spinoff with the working title Raise the Dead. We have some very interesting reveals that came from some pictures, behind the scenes pictures of the show, which is actually on its second season. Even though the first season hasn't aired, they're filming the second season, which is definitely super interesting. Now, what we have in store for us is actually the return of a fan favorite character, Carol Pelletier, who's actually going to be reuniting with Daryl Dixon, which is really, really awesome. Now, it's very interesting that this reunion is not actually happening in the United States, but in France. We know that Daryl washes ashore in France in the first season. We don't know exactly how yet, but we know that happens. But the fact that Carol and Daryl reunite in France instead of the United States raises questions about what's actually going on. There's also some potential big reveals in the picture as far as the relationship between Carol and Daryl is concerned, which we're going to talk about. So stay tuned. We'll be right back to break this down. Alright, as always, before we dive into it, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. With that said, let's dive right into it. So this is the picture that was released. Obviously, we see Daryl and Carol together. It looks pretty cool, and obviously we see Daryl. He looks closer to what he looked like in the behind-the-scenes stuff that we've looked at in the Daryl show than what he looked like in The Walking Dead itself at the end of The Walking Dead. And the reason why I bring that up is because this puts to bed any predictions as far as this could be a flashback. There's no way it could be a flashback because he's wearing clothing that he was wearing in the shots of him in France, so it can't really be a flashback. Also, there's a lot of cuts on his face, so that's also something interesting to keep in mind. Carol has a very new look on her. The clothing is different, but her hairstyle is the same. But at the end of the day, it's awesome that these two are finally reuniting, and the reunion is happening in the Daryl show, which makes sense. Now, one very interesting thing is what Carol is wearing on her hand. It looks like she's actually wearing a ring. Whether that's an engagement ring or not is unknown, but it's definitely a possibility, and it raises a lot of questions as far as, is this confirming that the relationship between Carol and Daryl is finally confirmed and official? I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but of course, Carol was originally supposed to be in the Daryl show in season 1, but there were some housekeeping items that kept the actress of Carol away from being able to go to France to film for the show. But it looks like they're finally able to do that, and the actress for Carol is able to go to France to film for the show, which is super cool. Now, this obviously brings up a lot of questions about how realistic is it. I mean, it's already unrealistic that Daryl winds up in France, and they're gonna have to be very clever in how they explain that. So now you have Carol also showing up in France. So I feel like we're getting into the territory where fan service is coming on top of realism, and I don't think that that's such a good idea. And the reason for that is because The Walking Dead has always been great because of how grounded in reality it's been. But now with these things, it's starting to look like they're really putting ratings and satisfying fans and doing like fan service things above making a show that makes sense, the storyline makes sense, and it's realistic. So because of that, I'm a little worried in terms of what they're going to do and how it's going to come together. And obviously this is a screenshot of a clip where we see the two characters on some sort of a bridge. And the scenery looks like it's in France, but even if this doesn't prove it to you, there's other behind the scenes pictures and clips that shows clearly they're in France and not the United States. But one final thing I want to say about realism is they've done this sort of thing before. It's not the first time. We know that they did the crossover with Morgan to Fear the Walking Dead, and the logistics of Morgan showing up in Texas in Fear the Walking Dead was already unrealistic to an extent. But they didn't just stop there. They did the same thing in almost the exact same way with Dwight and then Sherry, who also crossed over to Fear. So it's not impossible that they're gonna do the same thing and have Daryl get to France in some way and have Carol get there in a similar way by chance, and something that might be more of a convenient thing than them actually thinking about the story and how it can come together. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to go through in this video. I'm definitely intrigued to know your thoughts and opinions, so share that in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.